think the biggest product, as we all know, for Ganpati is Modak.
Sir, of course, there's a lot of goods which have to be manufactured during this period. So, how do you ensure that the quality and the taste is not compromised?
Those are now made on automated machines. So because of it, we are able to control the hygiene very well. And then we use a technology called modified atmosphere packaging, where we are able to package this and preserve this product for a very long amount of time.
Okay. Do you have any strategies through which you can ensure that the supply chain remains adaptable to such fluctuations in the demand?
Require a supply chain where nothing actually remains in our shelves for more than 24 hours. So how do we build this out is the big challenge for a Ganesh festival, and that is what we try to build. And I think that is where we use a lot of data, use a lot of big data as well, because there are multiple factors which affect how a festival moves in India.
So of course, Chitale Bandhu is a big brand, and how big of a workforce do you have, and how do you manage it?
We get into the data mining mode. We realize that last year we sold 100 kgs of a product, for example. So then we know for a fact that with a very organic growth pattern, we have to make 110 kgs this year. So the marketing comes into the picture in making it. How do we make that 110, 130? Because then that becomes a 30% growth, which is a great number compared to last year.
Hello, sir.
Hi.
So, Chitale Bandhu plays a key role in supplying goods during the Ganeshotsav. So, can you describe the scale of the production and distribution operations, and what are the major challenges which you face?
So I think a festival like Ganeshotsav, the challenge is that it's designated only for 10 days. So the big challenge with food products is that the demand peaks before the 10th or the first day starts. And it has to be stopped out by the 6th or 7th day, because otherwise the spillover will never be sold after the 10th day. So how do you plan your supply chain in such a tight window is something that we have to work upon. And that is where the work for all of this starts maybe 45 days in advance. I think the biggest product, as we all know, for Ganpati is Modak. Modak comes in all sorts of forms and shapes, where it could be the steamed Modak, it could be the filled Modak, it could be the cashew or the mawa or the flavored Modaks. And all of these Modaks are now made on automated machines. So because of it, we are able to control the hygiene very well. And then we use a technology called modified atmosphere packaging, where we are able to package this and preserve this product for a very long amount of time. So the first production of Modak actually starts for the export market, because usually export takes 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes even longer based on where it is going. So we start catering with the export demand probably 45 days before, so that it reaches the place 15 days before the event. The demand for the domestic market starts maybe around 20 days in advance, and we make sure that the product reaches the retailers about 10 days in advance, where people start planning for what they want to do at Ganeshotsav at their home. And I think the major surge actually happens for fresh products, which is when the festival actually kicks off, which is Ganesh Chaturthi. It peaks out at Gauri Jevan, which is the 5th day of the event. So that is the day when I think it hits sky high, and then it gradually starts tapering down. So that's why for all of this, we require a huge amount of core. We require a huge amount of cashews. We require a huge amount of packaging material. We require a huge amount of coconuts, which are, diced properly, and something that goes into the filling. And along with this, we require a supply chain where nothing actually remains in our shelves for more than 24 hours. So how do we build this out is the big challenge for a Ganesh festival, and that is what we try to build. And I think that is where we use a lot of data, use a lot of big data as well, because there are multiple factors which affect how a festival moves in India. And all of that with the right supply chain, somewhere where we ensure that the customer gets the freshest possible product.
Okay. Do you have any strategies through which you can ensure that the supply chain remains adaptable to such fluctuations in the demand?
So what we do is that when we get into the data mining mode, we realize that last year we sold 100 kgs of a product, for example. So then we know for a fact that with a very organic growth pattern, we have to make 110 kgs this year. So the marketing comes into the picture in making it. How do we make that 110, 130? Because then that becomes a 30% growth, which is a great number compared to last year. So now if 130 is to be achieved, we probably need to recalculate how do we make 130? And then the backward supply chain starts, where all of this planning. So currently this year, Ganpati are happening in the first week of September. So all of this planning will be done and procured and ready for deployment end of July itself. So that's how the reverse logistics work for it. And I think we use a huge amount of data to try and deliver this, because like just a test case, because we all are engineering students, that if it's going to rain, there is a less chance of sale happening too early. If it's not going to be raining, then there is a higher chance of sale happening more evenly, because people have enough windows to shop. So that way, building for search becomes difficult in rainy season, because the weather is also not conducive to preserving the product. But along with that, if it's going to be raining, but if it is going to be the last week of the month, then it's also going to mean that people are running out of salaries. So that way, they have lesser money to spend. So then that way, the budgeting has to be accordingly, and factoring in has to be accordingly. But if it is the first week of the month, which is happening this year, then very likely the salaries have been credited, people have money in their hands, and that way, because it is an auspicious event, they'll save and spend, prioritizing the festival first. So that means that there is a higher likelihood of sale. So all of these data points are something that are now built into enough machine learning, and they are able to come out with predictive answers for us very well. Matching that and interpreting that is the job of the IT team, and you're sitting in the IT office today.
Sir, of course, there's a lot of goods which have to be manufactured during this period. So, how do you ensure that the quality and the taste is not compromised?
So there are a couple of things that go towards building quality. I think quality is not a very absolute term. It is a very dynamic term, and it needs to be extended far before and after what a product is made. So I think the quality comes in two formats. One is assurance, the other is control. So there are certain things which you need to control to ensure that you are assured of the quality, and certain things you need to put as an assurance measure so that the customer is confident about what they're buying. So that starts from procurement, where there is a lot of standardization. So we'll buy koa of a certain standard. We'll buy cashews only of a certain standard. We'll buy coconuts only of a certain standard. We'll make sure that they pass through our test, where we know they are microbiologically safe, they are chemically safe, they are overall visually inspected and safe. Then they are going through the measures where there's a lot of automation that makes sure that these raw materials get converted into products. And these products are something that again pass through a lot of quality control measures, where we are checking how the product is, how the packaging is, how intact is the packaging, whether the seal and the date is proper, whether the batch coding has been proper, and whether all of this is reflecting in an electronic system, which is SAP that we run upon. So based on this, there is a traceability cycle that is built. And then we know till the point of our distributor, where which retailer is that distributor billing to as a supply chain. So building end-to-end quality assurance measures is where technology plays a lot of important role, and that is what we try to use or exploit to the maximum possible extent.
Okay. So, of course, Chitale Bandhu is a big brand. And how big of a workforce do you have, and how do you manage it?
So we have over 500 people right now working with us, and I think training them, scaling them, working on sensitizing them towards the fact that they are running a food business, and they are making something that people are going to consume. And especially on a festival like Ganpati, it's consumed as prasad, which has got such religious and auspicious value. So sensitizing people around this plays a very important role. So we have a very rigorous mechanism to keep training and sensitizing our people. The more they are trained, the better likely they are to succeed. So improving the systems around them is something that we try to do, and that ensures that we have minimal challenges.
Okay. So, since the time you have assumed the role of the managing director, have there been any significant changes which you brought about, like any introduction of any new technology in the manufacturing?
So I think the biggest thing that we've brought about is the automation. So say even 14, 15 years ago, the modaks used to be made manually as well. I think, of course, many other products that we automated, but Modak particularly, because the demand peaks only during the 10 days of the year, it was a difficult proposition to justify. So we would at one time maybe end up doing 1,000 kgs of Modak a day. So maybe, and 10 days prior, that would be about 10,000 kgs of Modak that we could sell. As of now, with the automation, this year we've been able to run 1,100 kgs an hour of Modak. So that way, what we used to do in a day, now we do in an hour, and we still work those many hours. So that way, you can imagine what is the type of production we've been able to build upon. And I think that has translated into our product reaching multiple geographies, multiple nations, multiple continents, and satisfying the emotional and religious aspects of the festival that is so dear to our consumers.
Okay. And speaking from the management perspective, Has there been any changes which you like brought about apart from automation?
I think it's also been a lot of packaging, and it's also been a lot of advertising, where I think we communicate to our consumers a lot more than what we used to before. And I think the way e-commerce has come up, quick commerce has come up, the likes of supermarkets that have come up, we see a lot more sale happening in channels which are not owned by us. So a retailer will sell more than what our physical owned store would sell in terms of Modak, for example. And that is the change that has come into the effect where I think our product availability has improved, and that has led to bigger sales happening. So democratizing with scale and automation is what we've been able to do as a technology as well as business case.
Challenges which you faced during your role as a managing director?
But I think the big challenge that we face at Chitale Bandhu is in terms of having enough data to recreate traditional Indian food product into a highly automated environment. Because significantly all Indian products are always about fresh and always about across the counter and always about something that is very homely in their nature. So just like Gharche Modak is always a more luxurious thing to have than any five-star quality Modak you would have. So how do we retain that homeliness in our food while scaling up and building it so automatedly and so systemically, where I think balancing emotion becomes a tough task. So how do we balance that? Because food is an emotion is I think the biggest challenge that we face. And using the data in the right manner to build that emotional touch and retain that emotional touch is what we as management need to keep doing all the time and figuring out. Because I think any food without emotion is something that you will not be able to digest, is my opinion.
Thank you.